It was a bright spring morning in Colorado when the unthinkable happened. Before lunch, two teenagers turned a quiet suburban high school into a war zone, leaving a nation shocked, grieving, and forever changed. This is the story of Columbine, the day America lost its sense of safety. April 20th, 1999, began like any other morning in Littleton, Colorado. The sky was a soft blue, the air crisp from an early morning chill. At Columbine High School, students arrived with backpacks slung over their shoulders, chatting about tests, prom plans, and weekend activities. Teachers prepared lessons and sipped coffee. The bell rang, the halls filled with the hum of teenage energy. No one imagined that by midday their world would be torn apart. Harris and Dylan Klebold were seniors who often seemed like outsiders, intelligent but withdrawn, sometimes angry, sometimes mocking the jock culture. For more than a year, they nurtured a dark fantasy. In private journals and home videos, they described an attack meant not just to kill but to make history. They studied the Oklahoma City bombing, downloaded bomb-making instructions, and wrote about outdoing past mass killers. Their plan was chilling. Plant large propane bombs in the cafeteria timed to detonate during the busiest lunch period. The blasts would kill hundreds and drive survivors outside, where they could be shot. Guns and homemade pipe bombs would finish what the bombs began. That morning, Harris and Klebold left home with duffel bags full of weapons and explosives, 9mm carbines, sawed-off shotguns, pipe bombs, and ammunition. At 11:10 a.m., they arrived in separate cars, planted the two propane bombs in the cafeteria, and set timers for 11:17. Then they waited. When the bombs failed to explode, they began their shooting spree at 11:19 a.m. Outside the west entrance, they opened fire on students eating lunch on the grass. Rachel Scott, 17, was killed instantly. Beside her, Richard Castaldo, also 17, was critically wounded but survived. Panic swept the school. Inside, students thought they heard firecrackers. Teachers tried to calm them, unaware a deadly assault had begun. Harris and Klebold moved toward the building, firing at anyone in sight. By 11:29, they entered the library, which became the deadliest scene. About 50 students and staff crouched under tables whispering prayers. The attackers taunted their victims. When 17-year-old Cassie Bernal answered yes when asked if she believed in God, she was shot and killed. In just 7 minutes, 10 people were murdered there. Teacher Dave Sanders lay dying in a nearby classroom after being shot while guiding students to safety. Outside, police surrounded the building, unsure how many shooters were inside. Parents gathered beyond the perimeter, frantic for news. Some students escaped through broken windows, hands raised as SWAT teams moved in. Television crews broadcast live images of terrified teenagers, scenes that seared into America's memory. Inside, the killers roamed briefly, firing sporadically. At 12:08 p.m., with police closing in, Harris and Klebold turned their guns on themselves. From the first shot to the final suicide, just under an hour had passed. When the smoke cleared, 12 students and 1 teacher were dead. More than 20 were injured. Families waited in anguish for confirmation of their children's fate. Survivors carried invisible wounds, trauma, grief, and questions that would never be fully answered. The dead included bright, promising young people: Rachel Scott, Daniel Rohrbough, Cassie Bernal, Stephen Curnow, Corey DePuter, Kelly Fleming, Matthew Kechter, Daniel Mauser, Isaiah Schulz, John Tomlin, Lauren Townsend, Kyle Velasquez, and teacher Dave Sanders. Their lives and dreams were cut short in an act of unimaginable cruelty. Investigators found videotapes, the basement tapes, where Harris and Klebold explained their motives: anger, rejection, and a desire to inflict maximum pain. Their writings revealed careful planning and a thirst for notoriety. The propane bombs had failed because of a faulty design. Had they detonated, hundreds could have died. Columbine changed America's conversation about school safety, gun control, and youth violence. The nation wrestled with hard questions. Were violent games and movies to blame? Did bullying and social isolation drive the killers? Or was it easier access to guns and explosives? Schools across the country introduced lockdown drills, secure entrances, and full-time resource officers. Police tactics shifted toward rapid response rather than waiting for specialized teams. The massacre dominated headlines and inspired documentaries, books, and debates. It became a grim reference point for future tragedies. Survivors and victims' families spoke publicly about grief and healing, determined that their loved ones be remembered for how they lived, not how they died. Dave Sanders was hailed as a hero for guiding students to safety. Rachel Scott's family shared her writings about kindness and faith, sparking the Rachel's Challenge movement to encourage compassion in schools. Other parents turned pain into advocacy for gun safety measures and mental health awareness. Even decades later, the why remains haunting. Harris's journals reveal a mix of clinical psychopathy and grandiose rage. Klebold's writings show depression and suicidal thoughts. Together, they created a lethal partnership. Experts still debate whether better mental health interventions, stricter gun laws, or more vigilant communities could have stopped them. Columbine forced a rethinking of how authorities respond to active shooters. Police nationwide adopted protocols for immediate engagement. Schools implemented security upgrades and threat assessment teams. Lockdown drills, once unthinkable, became routine. Today, a memorial stands near the school, a quiet place of reflection under Colorado's open sky. Etched in stone are the names of the 13 who were killed. Every April 20th, mourners gather to honor their lives and to remind the world that such violence must never be forgotten. The Columbine High School massacre was more than a single day of horror. It was a rupture in the nation's sense of safety and a warning of how fragile ordinary life can be. For survivors, families, and the country, April 20th, 1999, is not just a date in history. It is a wound and a call to vigilance. The story of Columbine endures as a somber reminder of the darkness two troubled teenagers unleashed and the enduring strength of a community that refused to let tragedy have the last word.